Good afternoon, Mr. Özhan. Thank you for having us at your office.
Hi, thank you very much for joining us here tonight, this evening. Thank you. 2023, to say the least, was not an easy year. We have signed 21 projects last year. I am extremely delighted with the level of cooperation. We provided our intention as EBRD to provide financing of up to 1.5 billion in middle corridor. We see the increasing participation at the highest level. Willingness is there. One gets both very proud and also somewhat emotional as well. I can see the vibrancy and the change.
Hello and welcome back to the Astana Times YouTube channel. I'm your host, Hüseyin, and I'm joined today by Director of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in Kazakhstan, Mr. Hüseyin Özhan. We are going to talk about the bank's activities in Kazakhstan in the past year, some key projects implemented and planned, and what stands ahead for the cooperation between EBRD and Kazakhstan. Thank you, Mr. Özhan, for having us today at the office.
Thank you, Asel. You're always welcome.
So one of my first questions, I want to start from the latest. I know that the bank has participated in the EU Central Asia Transport Connectivity Forum in Brussels. Could you share with us some insights from the forum and maybe some major agreements signed?
Certainly, 29th and 30th of January, there was the EU Central Asia Investment Forum for Transport Connectivity. And it was a very high-level event, mainly gathering the investors around Europe, but with a very high participation from all of the Central Asian countries, as well as the Caucasus and Türkiye. So it was a major event in Brussels, and Kazakhstan was also very well represented at high level with a very big delegation. And EBRD was also represented, of course, with our Vice President for Policy and Partnership. And I was there, as well as our Managing Director for Central Asia was there as well. At this investment forum, what I can tell you is that the highlight is that we provided our intention as EBRD to provide financing of up to 1.5 billion in middle corridor or Trans-Caspian corridor projects along this corridor. In other words, it's mainly related to infrastructure and associated with the transport projects, and it is not only for Kazakhstan, but it is for the entire Central Asia region. And at the forum, also together with the Minister of Transport, with Mr. Marat Karabayev, and with our Vice President for Policy and Partnership, Mark Bowman, we signed a memorandum of understanding, basically putting together how we're going to collaborate and how EBRD is going to support the Trans-Caspian corridor projects going forward. And we also agreed along basically Trans-Caspian International Route, TITR. And according to this MOU, we are basically targeting how we can increase the freight traffic and how we can make this corridor more efficient, and what are the specific investments that can be undertaken, and how we can commercialize the infrastructure so that private sector can also come in. So from this point of view, it was a very fruitful event, and we are very content with the outcome of the event and our collaboration with Kazakhstan.
And the sum that you mentioned is quite impressive. Could you share with us where the funds will be specifically directed?
Look, as I indicated, this is basically the sum for the entire region. Now, the main ideas, I cannot specifically name you projects, but the main idea is to provide support for developing the infrastructure across roads, railway infrastructure, ports, logistics centers, and any other warehouses and any other transport-related projects along the corridor. For example, Aktau port as an important, passage point, and also a bottleneck that is identified during the big study that we have taken last year, which is funded by the EU, on identifying the most efficient routes, transit routes from east to west, from Central Asia to Europe. This is one. Secondly, there are a number of projects, priority projects, on railways, on increasing the double tracks, increasing the electrification and signalization for the railway infrastructure of Kazakhstan. And number three, there are also road projects which will be important. Shalkar Beyneu is one of them, and also we're working with the ministry on some parts of Kızılorda Aktobe road, which will also support this route as well.
Mm-hmm. And indeed, the Trans-Caspian route has been under increased attention in the past few years, and Kazakhstan is paying a significant attention to the development of these roads, including from the country's top leadership. What challenges do you see in the development of this corridor specifically?
At the second European Union Central Asia Investment Forum, which was held in, I think, 19th of May in Almaty, the EBRD presented a study on sustainable transport corridor or transport connections between Central Asia and Europe, the study that I just indicated. It is a study that is funded by the EU and carried out, implemented by the EBRD. So this study basically identified the country-specific needs and measures to reduce the transportation costs, reduce the transportation time, increase the effectiveness and efficiency by putting together, also maximizing the inclusiveness of all the economies in Central Asia and identifying the relevant investments to increase the efficiency and the usability of this corridor. And certainly there are identified a number of bottlenecks. There are both the bottlenecks are both on the hard investment side, meaning that there needs to be a lot of investment that needs to be made to increase the effectiveness or the efficiency of this route, as well as soft measures where it will increase digitalization, passage between the countries, customs procedures that will also increase the efficiency and reduce the passage time. Along this particular study, 34 main projects were identified with a total investment cost approximately 17 billion euros. And those bottlenecks and challenges can be summarized as some of the infrastructure starting in Kazakhstan, that is on the railways, some projects such as Dostik-Moynti or Almaty bypass or Darbaza-Maktaral, which are also the priority for Kazakh Demiryolu at the moment. Or when we look at the passageway through Caspian, the container handling capacity at Aktau and Kurik ports, it needs to be increased. Or in addition, Caspian Sea is not a sea, it's actually a lake. Therefore, we need to take into account how to use the best alternative vessels, ships. So there will be more ships needed to create basically a bridge of ships between east and west. And also there are also further logistics centers. There will be a need for including more private sector. So all of these challenges have been identified in this study, and we presented that study. And to be very frank, some of the soft measures I want to talk about as well as challenges. These are digitalizing transport documents, customs procedures. We need to commercialize infrastructure, and some of the other ways to increase those investments and alleviate these challenges is also the use of public-private partnership models. So when you combine all of these, there are a number of challenges, correct, both on the infrastructure and soft side, soft measure side, but I think there is also willingness, both at the country level and as the stakeholders, as international finance institutions, as EBRD, we are also ready to continue our support to make this route more efficient, reliable and efficient alternative route connecting Central Asia to Europe.
And you mentioned the political will, and again, there are many stakeholders and countries through which the road passes. How achievable it is to address all the needs that you mentioned, considering the regional specific, the country's specifics?
TITR is an important example. It is basically bringing together all the important players. And within these forums, starting from EU Central Asia Investment Forum, continuing with the Global Gateway Forum, and last year there was also another forum in Samarkand, and now two Brussels meetings, one in October in Brussels, and now the January one. We see the increasing participation at the highest level, at the top level, from the countries, both from Central Asia as well as Caucasus and Türkiye. These are basically the countries that are on the route. And when you look at the declarations and when you look at the level of cooperation at the moment, one can clearly see that the willingness is there to, and identification of the projects and also support to these projects are also provided. We are seeing a lot of investments, both undertaken by Kazakhstan specifically, if we were to talk about. Kazakh Demiryolu is doing a lot of investments at the moment. Just yesterday, President Tokayev indicated in his speech at the Majlis saying that railway upgrades of 1,300 kilometers needs to be implemented. This is a clear indication that, and these projects are basically the priority projects that I have indicated. And this is definitely a clear indication that there is willingness and there is also relevant investment supporting that. And as IFIs, we are here also to continue supporting, not only from the financing part, but also with our technical cooperation as well. One more point I want to add that also proves that, at least from Kazakhstan side, that we can clearly see, there are a lot of also cooperations that are done with both Gulf companies, Singapore Port Authority, Deutsche Bahn, we see Maersk, we see all the big names that are prominent across the transport sector in the world are currently in Kazakhstan for these projects. So this also gives us a lot of courage to continue with these investments.
And because you mentioned the critical importance of involving private sector and businesses, how would you assess the involvement of private sector here, particularly in Kazakhstan, in the transport and connectivity projects beside TITR?
I would like to give, I think the best way to answer this question is to give some examples. Mm-hmm. Last year alone, we provided financing to 3 private sector operators. And all these 3 projects are a part of supporting the Trans-Caspian route. First one, we provided financing of $40 million to Eastcomtrans. And Eastcomtrans, also a part of TITR, is the largest private sector rail card operator. And our support, this investment, will be used, the use of proceeds for this basically financing, will be used for 3 folds. Number 1, they will build a service, they will build basically a small dry port, a station near Zhetigen, which is north of Almaty, to avoid the congestion, the big congestion in Almaty. This is completely in line with the project, with the Trans-Caspian corridor. Second part is that we will also finance purchasing of additional platform carts, which is also used mainly for container traffic. And third, the proceeds will be used for upgrading the maintenance centers for the wagons and carts as well. This is one example, and it is clearly supporting the middle corridor and through private sector involvement. Secondly, we also provided a $25 million financing to up and coming, one of the fastest growing, again, private sector rail operators called Atasu, in 2 projects. And similarly, these funds are going to be used to expand the network fleet and to increase the efficiency of these network cards. And finally, here in Astana, a relatively small player, but an important player, we provided financing, relatively smaller financing to Temir Service Company to increase capacity, handling capacity at their Astana station, Astana service station. So I think this is exactly what we are trying to do and what we are trying to increase in Kazakhstan as well. And these 3 projects are definitely putting the private sector on the map, and I know that there are also more. We're looking into a number of warehouse projects as well. Just last year in Kazakhstan, warehouse investments increased by more than 80%.
Impressive.
And we forecast that it will continue, and we would like to, as our main goal, to support private sectors in Kazakhstan. We will continue to provide our support.
Mm-hmm. As we just recently wrapped up the year of 2023, could you share with us some of the key highlights from the bank's activities in Kazakhstan?
Certainly. 2023, to say the least, was not an easy year.
Indeed.
I think it was a difficult year for all of us.
Yes.
We have worked a lot. I have to say we were up until the very last moment on the 29th of December at 5:30. We had the investment council meeting with the Prime Minister. So everyone was working until the very end. We have increased the number of projects that we financed by more than 50%. We have signed 21 projects last year across many sectors, from infrastructure to energy to financial institutions to providing support to SMEs. And it was also a year of implementation for us. We have provided more than $450 million of disbursements, of implementation of projects, of continuation of the projects, which put our total portfolio to closer to $3 billion. And we have in our active portfolio around 120 projects. And last year, 50% of the projects were on the green side. 2/3 of the projects had a gender and inclusivity component. And 92% of the 21 projects that we have signed last year were in the private sector. This is a record for Kazakhstan. Usually, we provide our financing, of course, to private sector, but we also blend it with public sector projects as well. But last year, it was also a year where we provided signed many of our projects and implemented in the private sector side as well.
And I know that in 2022, EBRD celebrated 30 years of its presence in Kazakhstan. What are your personal thoughts on the cooperation between EBRD and Kazakhstan so far?
I am extremely delighted with the level of cooperation and also very proud to see the impact that EBRD has, and the also experiencing Kazakhstan's movement towards further development. Kazakhstan is now an investment grade, BBB rated investment grade country. It is our longest uninterrupted operating country in Central Asia region. We have financed more than $10 billion of projects here, more than 300 projects, 320 projects. We have two main offices in Almaty and Astana, but we also have satellite offices in 4 other cities across Kazakhstan. We have close to 100 people on the ground. It's definitely the largest operations that we have. And we celebrated the 30 years of these achievements. We looked at every decade and identified the important projects that we signed in that decade. It was very difficult to do out of the 300 projects, but such important projects, especially in the recent years. Almaty Airport, I am looking so much forward to it to opening this year. A new terminal that Almaty deserves, that Kazakhstan deserves, where, I was there last week actually, going through the terminal looks great. The first and the largest PPP, Bakad, which is the big Almaty Ring Road project, which was opened 15 months ahead of schedule last summer. I mean, it was something that made me very proud. And what I would really like to see is the Almaty CHP project that we have done, which is going to reduce the CO2 emissions by 35% in the city of Almaty. It will reduce the NOx, nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide by eliminated completely, and reduce the air pollution and increase the air quality in Almaty. I would really like to see. When you see these projects, the renewable projects in Akmola region, we have also financed 15 renewable projects. So looking back, one gets both very proud and also somewhat emotional as well to see on the ground the development. That's why it is a great pleasure for me to, and I was very privileged enough to experience the 30-year celebrations as the director of EBRD here in Kazakhstan.
And these numbers and all the projects that you've mentioned are quite impressive, and I really hope that it's not only impressive in numbers, but in the impact it has on the lives of ordinary citizens of Kazakhstan, and I'm sure there is an impact with all these projects coming. So, as I mentioned, the strategy that EBRD signed in 2022, it has several significant pillars, including private sector competitiveness, economic inclusivity, and carbon neutrality. Could you tell us more about how the bank has fostered particularly economic inclusivity, and what does it mean?
As you said, it's one of the pillars of our strategy. Last year, also another project which I am proud of all the projects, obviously, but this one also has a special place. Last year we started a program called Youth in Business. Through this program, it's a 7-year program, which will support the youth at the ages of 18 to 35 who owns their businesses, and it will provide support specifically to these businesses with technical cooperation components, with advisory components, with financial literacy components, with components of first loss guarantee and similar financial benefits, and using our network of banks that we work with in Kazakhstan, we will provide financing. This will increase involvement of youth in the economic activity. Similarly, we have started our second phase of Women in Business. First phase was the pilot, and the second phase now 150 million euros worth of projects with direct support to women-owned and managed businesses. It is very important that having women involved and providing support to those, not only owned but managed as well. It's the criteria also is important. Again, not only through financing through the banks, but also through programs of advisory, of women-owned SME support, of financial literacy, increasing trainings. Also providing advisory services that is needed. So this too is just two examples. Similarly, inclusivity is not only the underprivileged groups. Inclusivity is also connection, regional connections. Is connecting each and every part of Kazakhstan. It's increasing the development in the rural areas, the development in the regions as well. Out of the 20 regions, we have projects, active projects, in 12 regions at the moment. That is for municipalities, that is for connecting the regions. So these are also important inclusivity projects and regional connectivity, intra-regional connectivity projects as well. So, and finally, we were also working with our colleagues at the UN and Kazakhstan for basically eliminating all of the prohibited sectors in Kazakhstan. It was 2 years ago, but the impact is lasting, and we are now seeing more of the positive impact of it. So these are a few examples that I wanted to give you on inclusion, gender and economic inclusion that we support in the development of Kazakhstan economy.
Mm-hmm. And these programs are very fundamentally important. I mean, as a person coming from Kazakhstan, particularly youth in business and women in business, how would you assess the demand of people or participants applying to these programs? Or
Kazakhstan has especially on the youth side, a very vibrant startup facilities as well. Another program I'm going to mention, but it is also impactful. We also have a program called Star Venture, where we select a cohort of startup companies, and it's a 1.5 year program where we work with them on furthering their businesses. I remember that right now because of the vibrancy. So there is quite a lot of demand. What we would like to see more to increase the impact is further development of the financial sector. Mm-hmm. Again, I was very happy yesterday when I was listening to President Tokayev. He also mentioned specifically to have a more active banking sector. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what we want. We want to also support, and we're working now to add two more banks to our number of financial institutions that we work with to basically increase the impact of these programs. So hopefully this year we will add 2 more banks to our list of financial PFIs, financial institutions. So hopefully that we can also increase our supply to the vibrant demand in Kazakhstan.
And moving on to another important area of EBRD's work in the region and in Kazakhstan, this is low carbon development. And we know that Kazakhstan has pledged to achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. And the ambitions, it's a very ambitious plan, as we know, but the country has relied on fossil fuels for more than 30 years and still ongoing. In your view, how could Kazakhstan balance its environmental goals and economic ambitions?
We call it green economy transition. It is the long-term decarbonization strategy until 2060, or how we try to phrase it as supporting Kazakhstan on its way, on its journey towards carbon neutrality. It is extremely important. The climate change, global warming, the impacts of climate change is clear and accepted by everyone. And Kazakhstan has made significant commitments. And I'm very proud also that we have worked quite a lot with authorities on the preparation of the long-term decarbonization strategy. First with Ministry of Ecology, then with Ministry of National Economy, which took over and through Economic Research Institute. And it was signed last year in, I think, February or March. And it has become a long-term strategy of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a highly energy-intensive country and does rely on quite a bit on fossil fuels, you're right. Compared to, say, 5 years ago, the current perception and perspective is quite impressive. There is an understanding and there is an active movement towards this carbon neutrality.
You mean among the leadership, right?
Across Kazakhstan, I would say. Among the leadership, obviously, but also in general as well. It is increasing. We have worked again with Ministry of Energy on what is called a low carbon pathway. It is basically a more detailed study that feeds into the long-term decarbonization strategy of Kazakhstan. There is a great willingness and support to increase the rollout of renewables in Kazakhstan. This is a very major development. It is an important milestone, and this is going to be the most important portion or pillar towards carbon neutrality. It's the rollout of renewables. Now, there is a plan to have 6.75 gigawatts of auctions, renewable energy auctions, in the next 5 years. It was declared by Ministry of Energy. Mr. Satkariev declared it. There are also big projects that will be undertaken by large investors, international investors, namely Total Energies, Masdar, Aqua, and CPIH, another 4 gigawatts. So in the next 5 years, we will see an addition of more than 10 gigawatts of renewable energy. Now, it also requires a lot of investments on the technical enablers, like the grid company. Kigok, which is a client of us, last year another proud project, what we participated in their green bond issuance, and we as an investor, and it is the local currency, tenge denominated green bond, first of its kind, a very innovative product. And we are also working with them on strengthening the grid, the transmission grid system, which is an important technical enabler for rolling out more renewables. And I'm also very happy to say that currently we have financed around 35% of the existing installed capacity of renewables in Kazakhstan, in 15 projects, basically across everywhere in Kazakhstan. So we see the not only willingness, but the actual move towards that. Right now, it's around 5% where the electricity from renewable sources. The goal is to increase it to 15, 20 or 25%, and then reduce the dependency on coal going forward. But we also need to understand that it is a long-term plan. Careful planning and programming needs to be done, and it will be supported by these low carbon pathways, these detailed analysis, this roadmap across all sectors in Kazakhstan. And this is the route to decarbonization. Now, how we are, maybe one last point that I would like to make on decarbonization, because it is also a very important topic and the first pillar for our strategy in Kazakhstan. We carry out a multifaceted policy engagement as well, not only on the investment side. As I said, on the national side, long-term decarbonization strategy, low carbon pathways across various sectors. On the city level, we have green cities programs. We have 4 green cities in Kazakhstan at the moment, Almaty being the largest one, including Shymkent as well, where we provide financing. And Almaty CHP project that I mentioned was a part of the Green Cities program. We work with the big companies that will make systemic changes. Samruk-Azina. Samruk-Azina also has its own decarbonization plan until 2050. It is an important player in Kazakh economy. We work with them as well. We support them too. And also, again, green financing facilities through banks to the wide network of companies in Kazakhstan. We work with the financial regulator on ESG matters. We work with Ministry of Ecology on ESD standards. So from that point of view, there is a multifaceted, there is a very well organized decarbonization strategy. And we see Kazakhstan also with enough ambition going forward and taking into account and understanding the importance of decarbonization. But it is a challenging and it is a long road.
Since we mentioned the project of Almaty CHP several times, and it's quite an important project not only for Almaty but for Kazakhstan as well, could you share some details? What's the progress been made on that project?
Sure, of course. The project is ongoing. We have completed the financing, and also the procurement procedures have been completed. The company that is going to build it is identified, and currently the specs have also been, of course, agreed. And the project actually is will be starting the actual construction fairly soon, and hopefully with an aim to finish by the end of 25. As I said, it will be a landmark project, and hopefully the technology that is used there will also hopefully enable even hydrogen use later on, and that's also an interesting feature of the project. So Samruk-Energa, through Almaty power plants, is implementing the project, and it is on schedule.
So you've been in Kazakhstan on your mission a little more than 2 years. Could you share on a personal note some your observations here in Kazakhstan in terms of the development and the initiated reforms, particularly on the investment side? And I know that reforms, there are many of the reforms and still being announced during the recent addresses of the president too.
By origin, I am from Türkiye, and we say I'm in my, Türkiye is my motherland. I'm in my fatherland, as we call it. It's the so I'm in my original land where we came from. So we were with my family very much welcome here. It's been more than 2.5 years actually, and my little daughter is now 3.5. She was only 1 when we came here. She's almost fluent in 3 languages now. Seeing them grow up here is wonderful. We are living in Almaty, but a regular traveler to Astana also. And as a family, we were very welcome, and Kazakhstan has become our home. So on the personal level, I am very happy to be here. On the more, again, on the personal level, how I perceive the development of Kazakhstan is I can see the vibrancy and the change, especially after the January events of 2022. There is this movement towards definitely further development. Challenging setting in the world, we all know. But it is very good to experience that Kazakhstan is overcoming these challenges. And through their reform programs, there are a number of programs we are seeing on the education side. There are a number of programs that we are seeing on, again, on decarbonization side. And something which is a bit more dear to my heart is the public-private partnerships. And also it's very good to see that there will be more focus on public-private partnership side as well. And I'm hoping that we will see more projects across. And finally, on the capital markets and privatization is something that is very dear to my heart, but also as EBRD. And my favorite airline, which is Air Astana, is currently in the process. And maybe by the time this video is online, we will be celebrating the privatization, a major privatization of Air Astana. So from that point of view, it's a positive note. It is, very happy to be in Kazakhstan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Özhan. That's a wrap on my questions. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you. It was a lovely pleasure having you here in our offices. Thank you.